But this is where our story takes a drastic, and I mean a drastic turn for the former 5-star quarterback Chris Leak. Whether or not he did it, there's one thing for sure, his reputation took a hit.
Now they will bring 3.
When you think of some of the greatest Florida quarterbacks of all time, who comes to your mind first? Rex Grossman, Danny Werfel, Steve Spurrier, and come on man, you thought I was going to forget them? No way. Tim Tebow. All of those players I just listed off were great and outstanding football players. However, with that being said, there seems to be a guy that's always forgotten about when you bring up this conversation. The said player I'm referring to goes by the name of Chris Leak. Unfortunately for Mr. Chris Leak, he was the quarterback before the Tebow era. Why is that important? And we'll touch more on this later in the video. Since Tebow was so good, everybody just forgot about the guy before him. The one thing I've always remembered about Chris Leak is how beautiful, I mean beautiful, of a spiral he threw. I'm going to show you some of the video clips. It's hard to tell because this footage is so old, but good gosh almighty, if you saw it back in the day, you know. That was one of the prettiest passes you were ever going to see.
So blitz actually. Leak got a man in position for Florida. Here's Leak.
Chris Leak led Florida to a national championship, and here's one of those beautiful passes in the BCS championship.
Perfect on his first 6 throw. Position on your left.
So number one, led his team to a national championship. You can't be a slouch of a quarterback and do that. Number two, like I've harped on a lot already, and I've shown you, he was a good passer. And last but not least, number 3, I haven't even shared this with you. He was a prestigious 5-star recruit. I share that with you to lead me into my next point perfectly. He was the guy. Chris Leak was the man. Oddly enough, though, after those Florida days and after that championship, he essentially disappeared. When I was gathering all my information, doing research for this video, it was more puzzling than I originally thought it was. The fall off of Chris Leak is head scratching. What went wrong for this 5-star quarterback of the team who won the national championship to vanish just like that? There's many questions people have been asking about this guy even till this day. But however, it all circles back to the one, and I mean the one big question I want to try to get to the bottom of in today's video. What really happened to Chris Leak? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you are having a great day. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. Major shout out to this comment right here. If you guys have any recommendations for future story videos like this, leave a suggestion down below, and who knows, we might make that video. I got good and bad news. The good news is, college football, it's right around the corner. Bad news is, once the season starts, that is the end to the documentaries on the channel, and most of y'all know this. Oh yeah, by the way, thanks for this comment. 0 views in 10 seconds, period. Matt be bald. I understand the first part of it, and then at the end you're just rubbing salt in the wound. Like, come on man, what are we doing? You write an average comment, which is fine, and then at the end you just gotta throw in some disrespect. Anyways, getting back on track here, strap in, buckle up, get your snack, get your popcorn, get your favorite meal you like to eat and watch a video, because trust me, I do the same thing. But alright, Matt, blah, blah, shut the crap up now, without further ado, let's get into it. Mr. Chris Leak, coming out of the state of North Carolina, was a 5-star recruit, but not only a 5-star recruit, he had an overall scout grade of 9940. He didn't quite crack the top 10, he was only ranked as the 12th best overall player in the nation. Listen to this though, and I gotta share this with you. In high school, he had 15,593 passing yards. Yeah, that's insane, and I wonder where that ranks all time in high school football history. It's gotta be up there somewhere in the top 10. And if that wasn't enough for you, listen to this. He had 185 touchdown passes. That isn't just ridiculous, that is redonkulous. There's not even a word to describe it. He was one of the most sought after quarterback recruits coming out of high school, and long story short, he commits and signs with Florida. He arrives on the campus in the year 2003, and as a true freshman, he's playing immediately. In that first season, he completed roughly 59% of his passes, had 2,400 passing yards with 16 passing touchdowns to 11 INTs. I wouldn't say that's good, but I also wouldn't say it's bad. It was okay. Heading into his second season, which was 2004, this is when everybody was like, alright, you got 1 year under your belt, it's time for you to go out there and ball out. I'm curious, let me know in the comment section if you remember that 04 season. How do you think Chris Leak played? Would you say he balled out? Would you say it was slightly above average or just average? Let me know. I'll show you with the numbers. He jumped up his completion percentage 0.2, so you could round that up to 60. Had right at 3,200 passing yards with 29 touchdowns, which was a lot back then, and 12 INTs. So his interceptions stayed relatively the same, and the touchdowns, passing touchdowns, went up by 13. So that's good. As far as it goes for the Florida football team itself, didn't have a great year. They finished 7-5. His junior year in 2005, he took really good care of the football. Bumped up his completion percentage to 63, had 2,600 passing yards with 20 touchdowns, which is a decrease, but you'll also notice this, had only 6 INTs. That was good enough to lead Florida to a 9-3 record that year. They beat Iowa in the bowl game, and heading into 2006, this is when everyone knew you got Chris Leak coming back for his senior year. Florida could be something special. And special they were. They started the year on a 6-game winning streak, and they're just cruising and bruising past everybody. Well, that is outside of Tennessee, in which they won a nail-biter by 1 point. On October 14th in 2006, this is when they had to travel to no other than Auburn, Alabama. Let's just say that Leak didn't put on his best performance. 9 for 17, buck 08 through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Auburn wins by double digits. And at the time, although you didn't write off Florida, you were telling yourself, well, I guess they just don't have it to get it done this year. Even after the game, they weren't super impressive over Georgia, 1 by 7. They weren't super impressive over Vanderbilt, 1 by 6, and they beat South Carolina by 1. So you're sitting there going, well, is this really a national championship contending team? They weren't dominating teams, but they were winning games, and sometimes that's all you got to do. Beat the Seminoles by 7 points and had a really good top 10 win over Arkansas. Get into the BCS championship, in which they destroy the little bro Ohio State 41-14. Chris Leak had a phenomenal performance against Ohio State. He had a quarterback rating of 91. 25 for 36, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 INTs. Couldn't ask much more out of your quarterback. After his season ends, he declares for the NFL draft, but teams were not interested in him, not even to the slightest. Believe it or not, in the 2007 NFL draft, he went undrafted. Nobody gave him a shot. Caught some people by surprise because, sure, he didn't have the best measurables. He wasn't your stereotypical NFL quarterback, 6'5", 230 pounds, but the dude was a proven winner and he could play. The Chicago Bears did wind up signing him as a free agent that summer. Played with him in a preseason. You could say they weren't too fond of him because they caught him right when the 2007 season was beginning in September. Following that, he wound up having a tryout with the Chiefs. Nothing came out of that. He tried joining the AAFL, not the AFL, but the AAFL. And then the league, there was some huge problem where they didn't have enough capital, and he never even played with them. After that big mess, in the summer of 2008, this is when he signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats out of the CFL, which is the Canadian Football League, and we've talked about them a lot on this channel. That's normally where all these forgotten college football stars go. They either go to the CFL or the Arena Football League, the AFL, something like that. Some people did have some high hopes for him, but in the CFL, he was nothing more than a backup quarterback. He played a couple of times when the starters got hurt, but outside of that, there's not too much to say. After that 3-year stint in the Canadian Football League, he then joined, like we just talked about, the AFL, which is the Arena Football League. He signed with the Jacksonville Sharks, and in his only game with them, he had 200 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. I get it, it's not the stiffest competition, but it goes to prove he still had some juice left in the tank. Or would it be gas left in the tank? You get what I'm trying to say. Shortly after that, in 2012, he worked as a radio host, and in 2013, this is when he started helping Will Muschamp. This is where he was a graduate assistant for Florida, and at this point in time in his life, things were looking great. He would eventually continue to work his way up, and in 2015, he was hired as the head coach of Edgewater High School, which is located in Orlando, Florida. But this is where our story takes a drastic, and I mean a drastic turn for the former 5-star quarterback Chris Leak. His team was struggling. They were losing a lot of games, and then allegations came out that he got involved with a minor. It was being reported and investigated by the police that he, how do I say this without YouTube getting too mad at me? Because I don't think you can just come out and say it. Okay, we'll do this. Okay, whatever. If YouTube gets mad at me, they get mad at me. This video is for educational, informational purposes only. Chris Leak sexually assaulted a 16-year-old girl. Reportedly, right? And allegedly. As this investigation was going on, he announced his resignation from the team. Weirdly and strangely enough, the victim in this situation didn't press charges and called off everything. From everything I read, there were no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Chris Leak, he was going to get in some major trouble. Whether or not he did it, there's one thing for sure. his reputation took a hit. It wasn't a good situation, but like I said, the case was dropped and nothing came out of it. Fast forward time into 2017, this is when Chris Leak started up a quarterback development program. It goes by the name of Airstrike Passing Academy, and even to this day, they're up and running. Well, I know it seems like this video has came to an abrupt ending, but here we are. I guess there's only one thing to ask left, and this is where we'll end it off. Why do you think Chris Leak didn't get an opportunity in the NFL? Was it his size, his arm, the way he read defenses, he didn't process information quick enough? You let me know. For me, if you want my 2 cents, I think it was a combination of everything. He was a good passer, but he wasn't great, and you could say that about everything for him. To be a quarterback in the NFL, you either got to be great, really great at one thing, or great at multiple different things. I'm curious though. Let me know your thoughts down below. But